The Atheist Debates Patreon project presents, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Hey everybody, how you doing? Hope you're well. I know some of you are going to say, wow, after all these years of producing videos, we really haven't done a video on I don't have enough faith to be an atheist? Well, to be honest, it's possible that I've done a video on this subject before, but I know that there are things in this take that don't exist in previous versions. And it came up, and it's important because this question gets asked frequently, and despite having addressed it in other ways, it doesn't stop some apologist from trotting it out on a regular basis. There's some things in here that I think might be important enough for every atheist to understand so that when they run up against someone claiming, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, they may have a better response to that. Now, on last week's The Hang Up, I was asked this question, and I promised that I would do this recording and get it out. I said I would do the recording the very next day, but I didn't say when I would get it out, so it'll be out at the end of the month. But it's also a meme that I've seen here recently that was like, if I were an atheist, I'd have to believe everything came from nothing and that chemicals can self-replicate and that apparent order is due to natural processes that just are, and I don't have enough faith for that. Now, yes, you could begin, as I traditionally have, and it's perfectly acceptable, by pointing out that atheism isn't a positive claim, and so it doesn't need a belief in it. It is the rejection of a claim. Somebody says, hey, a God exists. I'm not convinced of that, is the default and the atheistic position. Now, there's also the strong atheist position of, I'm convinced that your claim is false. I'm convinced there are, in fact, no gods. And this is what most people who would use this, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, are actually referencing. And we'll get to that. But when it comes to faith, long ago, I came up with my own definition that I think accurately models what happens when people, religious and otherwise, talk about faith. It fits into a number of different categories, which is why after going through those categories, which I'll touch on briefly, my definition of faith is the excuse people give for believing something when they don't have a good reason. Because if you have a good reason, you don't ever appeal to faith. Religious individuals, especially particularly Christians citing Hebrews 11:1, would point out that faith is the evidence. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen, is what it says in Hebrews 11. And so this sounds poetic and beautiful and inspiring. I agree. If you just look down it like that, you'd be like, yeah, that's it. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. But what do we mean by things hoped for? Could you hope for a lottery win? You could hope for good health or happiness. But if faith is the substance for those things, is the foundation for those things, then those hopes have no real substance. They have nothing in reality to point to. It is just hope. I'm not against hope in the sense of being optimistic, but false hope that isn't backed up by anything. Oh, I hope I get picked in the NBA draft. I hope I win the lottery. Those sorts of hopes, I would argue, are actually bad. And the fact that they're propped up by nothing more than faith is a real problem. And when you say faith is the evidence, then clearly everybody else is doing evidence wrong. Spectral evidence isn't allowed in courts. Your faith-based claims would be inadmissible. There's no context that I can think of in which faith being the evidence guarantees any more accuracy or reliability in conclusions. And some people will say they use faith in a slightly different way, that faith is nothing more than a confidence level. It's just trust. And they'll say it's the same thing as you're sitting in a chair right now and you have faith that the chair is not going to give away under your enormous girth, Matt. Because, I was in a TikTok the other day and got called a fat pig by a 14-year-old who said he was way smarter than all of us. It amuses me what some people decide to attack with. But this notion that I have confidence levels in things and therefore I'm exercising faith is something I'm going to get back to in a little bit. But if that's all you mean, that you have some confidence level in the absence of absolute certainty about something, yeah, we all have faith in that context. I tend to talk about it in terms of I trust based on evidence. My confidence in the chair is based on past encounters with this chair, with others' chairs, with confidence in the laws that make sure that, we're manufacturing things to certain specifications and all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, I'm still not 100% confident because I've sat in chairs and had chairs give way before, as has almost anybody. And so all I'm saying when I say I trust this chair is I trust it. I'm not saying it's foolproof because, faith can build a better fool. The other thing that I'll sometimes say faith is that faith is a virtue. And within Christianity in particular, I'm not going to dig in on too many others. There's two different notions of this, that faith is a gift, like God gifts you confidence. God gifts you assurance or certitude when you couldn't have gotten it any other way. And when we talk about these things, it's like you would never have to say, I have faith that this is a cell phone. I have a faith that this cell phone is real. And you would never, ever, ever say that. And yet somehow they've missed the point that appealing to faith in those contexts is actually a real problem. Now, I'm a fan of trying to be as charitable a listener as possible. And so if we look at their claim, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, what does this mean from their perspective? First, they think that a world existing without a God is absurd and not true. They're convinced that this is ridiculous, cannot be true, and is in fact the opposite of what's actually happening. And in the same way, you'd never say, I don't have enough faith to believe this is a cell phone. You would use I don't have enough faith for saying, I don't have enough faith to believe there's a pink flying elephant who speaks 5 human and 3 alien languages. That's what you would say. And so they think that the atheist position, and they're only primarily looking at the strong atheist position of, I'm convinced there are no gods. They're putting that at an absurdity level that matches believing that there is a pink flying elephant who speaks 5 human languages and 3 alien languages, which means they're saying the more absurd something is, the more faith is required. Let that sink in for a second. The more absurd something is, the more faith is required. This is what they are saying. When they say, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, they think being an atheist is the absurd position, and that more faith could warrant that absurd position. Not only are they saying that it would require more faith to get to that position, but they're suggesting that having more faith, whatever that means, I don't know how we quantify it or test it, would move one towards the more absurd position. Now, when I said faith is the excuse people give when they believe something without good reason, this is exactly what I meant. And every time someone comes out and says, oh, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, you will now recognize that in fact what they are saying is faith is a bad thing. More faith leads to more absurdities. That is wrapped up necessarily in their statement. It's an admission to what I've been saying for years. And so all those other definitions of faith go out the window. It's just a confidence level. It's just a trust. It's just this. And, Hebrews, it's the substance of things hoped for. No. Faith is the excuse people give for believing something when they don't have a good reason. There's another aspect of faith that ties in with trust that I've heard many times from apologists and apologist friends even, and that is, well, you can't be 100% sure of something. So you, Matt, you are also recognizing faith. You're exercising faith, not recognizing. And this doesn't get around the problem because they're still using faith as if it's a pejorative, as if it's a negative, as if it is the problem. Because what you're doing is you're pointing out, hey, you're believing something based on faith. And their response is, well, you do too. It's the tu quoque fallacy. You do it too. And then they'll say, look, you trust that chair, which we've addressed before. But think about that for a second. I agree. I can't be 100% certain about anything. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is, as far as I can tell. Even reason, it's based on, ultimately, some presuppositions. But what if I'm 99% sure and only 1% faith in that context that they're using? Well, cool. 100% sure would be the goal. 99% with 1% faith, I suppose, would still be a pretty strong confidence. What if I'm 70% sure? Does that mean I have then 30% faith to get me up to the 100%? What if I'm only 10% sure and I'm 90% faith based in this belief? All that means is the more faith you have to exercise, that correlates with less reasonable confidence. So when your factual confidence, the how sure are you absent faith, the 70, 80, 90%, 99%, let's look at all the evidence and not take anything on faith, and we get to a confidence level, a factual confidence level of 80%, and then we, in order to get to 100% confidence, boost that with 20% faith confidence. Anytime your factual confidence is lower than your faith confidence, I would argue that's a problem. As factual confidence increases, faith decreases, which means that faith is the filler. Faith is the thing that gives you, without any substance, it becomes the substance to fill in the gaps in what you don't know. There is no way that saying I don't have enough faith to be an atheist is anything less than a tacit admission that faith is bad, that more faith is worse, that more faith can justify more irrational and absurd beliefs. So when they say this from now on, I think I'm just going to smile because, first, they're misrepresenting atheism. Atheism isn't a positive claim. It's not something you have to believe in. It is a negative claim. It is a rejection of a claim. It is saying, hey, you just said there's a God. I'm not convinced. That's it. You may, in fact, also be convinced that there is no God, but then you've adopted a burden of proof. They're not only misrepresenting atheism, but they're misrepresenting the burden of proof. They're also misrepresenting sound epistemological methods of what makes something reasonable. And they're simultaneously suggesting with this doublespeak that faith is a virtue while acknowledging that it is in fact a vice. I have exactly enough faith to be an atheist, which is none in the context that I talk about it. I have no interest in giving excuses for believing things when I don't have good reasons. I'll just give the good reasons. And the reason I say that I have exactly no faith and to be an atheist is because it doesn't take any faith to not believe a claim. It doesn't take any faith to properly assign the burden of proof. It doesn't take any faith to believe true things, to believe things supported by evidence, to believe in reality. It only takes faith to believe in those things that aren't supported by good evidence. And so when they start talking about confidence, I would like to distinguish between factual confidence, the evidence-based, reason-based, argument-based, reality-based confidence level, which may be 60%, could be 90%, could be 95%. Contrast that factual confidence with their faith confidence. And as soon as they start saying, I just don't have enough faith confidence to not believe in God, what they're declaring is that the notion that there could not be a God is so absurd that they cannot support that position without appealing to the very same make-believe faith confidence that they're using for their God. See you next time. Bye-bye.